It could be two males or two female friends, but those are people who care deeply for each other. People who will go the extra miles for the other person. So this type of relationship, it exists, and we deal with that on a daily basis. And we're going to see in the second part of our presentation, even though it is a friendship, but there have to be boundaries in order to protect yourself. Now, there is another type of relationship that we want to talk about. It's called romantic relationship. So, Starlene, comme Starlene lui-même, li habitué avec qualité et relation ça, because we're talking about romantic relationship. Et nous avons une belle demoiselle comme ça, li mariée déjà. So, she will be a perfect example to tell us a little bit about romantic relationship. Although most people, they have an idea. What can you tell us about romantic relationship?
Well, before I say anything about the romantic relationship, nous connaissons dans la société, I want to ask a question about the platonic relationships. Since vous dites comme ça que for the platonic relationships, it doesn't matter the sex of the person, but est-ce que nous believe vraiment dans la société nous que un garçon avec une fille can have a platonic relationship? Because, you know, in our community, even within the church, kuyo where un garçon avec une fille gagne une closeness, everyone automatically assumes that there's something romantic going on, you know? And basically, do you want to answer the question before I go into the romantic?
Yeah, sure. So what happened is that, you know, like you said, there are different kind of relationships. And as you could see earlier, when I asked the question, what is a relationship? Everyone, you know, they automatically assume when you talk about relationship, it has to be a romantic relationship. And that is why you see a lot of the young people, they didn't want to answer. They didn't want to comment. But again, there are different kind of relationship. It does not have to be romantic. A platonic relationship, and we've seen that all the time. People who will go the extra miles for the other person with no strings attached, with no benefit. It's just they are friends. What is it? No romantic benefits. Yes, that is correct. But like you said, in our community, a lot of time they just assume the fact that a male and a female, they are friends and they are close to each other, they assume there's something else. But assumption does not have to be reality. Now, of course, and as you're going to see in the second part of the presentation, setting those boundaries, that's what's going to protect you as the female so that the lines are not crossed. Because once every single person, they know what are their roles in the relationship, it should be okay. Now, of course, people can assume, but it doesn't have to, the assumption don't have to be true.
Okay, so a romantic relationship is basically what it says it is. It's a romance. It's a feeling of a relationship that involves loving intimacy between a man and a woman, where, you know, you love each other, you start off dating, your plans is to marry and, you know, have a life together, build a life together, have sexual relations together, you know, fulfill all of your romantic and physical needs and life needs in that relationship, which is different from a platonic relationship where, you know, you're friends, basically, in a platonic relationship. You may share a lot of life experiences together. You may share a lot of your problems, a lot of your joys, but it does not cross that romantic line.
All right, Valisha, would you like to add anything? Why are you so afraid from that one? So, Valisha, sorry to put you on the spot. You don't have to talk about experience. So you want to add anything? You want to chime in about romantic relationship?
It has to be pure, when it comes to romantic relationship, because you want that for the rest of your life. It has to be God-given and God-ordained. It has to be approved by Him, because a lot of times we go through relationships, we have different exes, and you realize it's the same cycle over and over again. You're doing the same things, same holidays, it's the same things, just a different name, So it's really important for us as young people, as youth, as young adults, when we are finding the right one, don't go through a cycle. Go through a process. And the process is not what you want, it's what God wants for you. Because if you pick your own guy or your own female, you're going to suffer. But if you go through the process, God is going to help you grow up to become more mature. And then boom, tada, l'église fait mariage pour, and you are blessed.
Amen. And actually, you see, a lot of time when you are in those kind of relationships, boundaries are extremely important. And a lot of time, if you don't set boundaries, later on, you pay the price. Now, there is another kind of relationship that is called a codependent relationships. Now, this kind of relationship, it is very imbalanced. And it tends to be dysfunctional at times. And the reason why is because a lot of time, it's one person acting as the giver, and the other one is more like the receiver. Have you guys ever experienced that kind of friendship where you feel like you're always the one giving, and the person is just there receiving? You feel like you have to ask permission anytime you need to do something. You feel like you always have to rescue the other person. Now, there is another kind of relationship that's going to lead us to the next topic. That's called a toxic relationship. And we've seen that a lot, especially among our young people. Now, in fact, let's talk a little bit about the casual relationship before we even get to the next one, which is the toxic. Starlene, so can you tell us a little bit about casual relationship? I know we talk about platonic, which is friendship. We talk about romantic relationship. We talk about a codependent relationship. What about casual relationship? What can you tell us about that?
A casual relationship is basically a relationship that you have with somebody that is not really named. The both of you know that you're in a relationship, but there's no real official title. Like, there's no real official understanding of what the relationship is. Some people may have a casual friendship where you're not really quite sure if you're friends. If you see each other, you hang out. If you don't, then you don't hang out. Some people may have a casual sexual relationship where they engage in physical things together, but there's no commitment. Like whenever you just need something or you meet with that person, you have your casual relations, and then it's done. And unfortunately, that's something that happens a lot within younger people who are not in an official relationship, but they, like an official romantic relationship, but they have this untitled, undefined thing happening where, and it's a very dangerous relationship because it's one where that person can take advantage of you because nobody knows anything that's going on. There's no expectations, so that person may feel like they can do whatever, whenever, and people are not aware. And even you may not feel like you have any rights to react to a bad thing that happened because there was really never any expectations from both sides. So it's really a bad situation to be in.
So to make it more practical, are you referring about maybe like sex buddies, about like
Yes.
one night
Sex
stands,
buddies, friends
with benefits. Are you talking about those things?
Yes.
All right. Now, Valnisha, now as young Christians, how do we stay away from those things? Or is it something that is okay, even if society accepts it? But is it something, you know, as godly people, as Christian, is it something that we can entertain or fall for?
We shouldn't entertain it because it's what brings out our lust. Okay, casual relationships, yes, society approve of it, they do it, and even among the church, they do it, but it's just bringing out your lust. If you're lustful for that person, you will not produce anything but lust, anything but sin. Even sometimes, even diseases, you know, because we talk about in school, HIV, AIDS, because of those casual relationships that you had been having, you get to a point where that's all you can give. But you're losing yourself in the middle of that. You're losing yourself in the drift of you feel as if, you know what, it's a trend. But don't fall for every trend because you can fall before the trend dies out.
All right, so now let's talk about the next one, which is toxic relationship. A toxic relationship, it is any type of interpersonal relationship where your emotional, physical, psychological well-being is undermined or threatened in some ways. So in this kind of relationship, it's mostly when there's a lack of support from the other person, when there's a lot of blaming going on, when there is controlling behaviors, when there is a poor communication, or when there's stress, disrespect, dishonesty, hostility, jealousy in this kind of relationship. Now, as we see in all those kinds of relationships, because we are human, we interact with each other on a daily basis. We are going to be in a relationship with our friends, with our neighbors, with our brothers and sisters at church. So it's something that happens on a daily basis. Now, the question is, how do we set boundaries? Because being a relationship, whether it is a romantic relationship or platonic, you have to set boundaries. And when we set boundaries, we do not set boundaries for the other person. You set boundaries for yourself. You set boundaries to protect you. So, because there are so many types of boundaries, and it will be very exhaustive to talk about all the different type of boundaries that exist. But in the context of this afternoon, we want to talk about a biblical or a Christian boundaries in the way that we interfere with our friends and the way that we interfere with the people around you. We see a biblical boundary, it is a personal, relational line if it is crossed that will lead you to sin. If it is crossed that will lead you to an unwise decision or action. If it is crossed that will lead you into a personal hurt or pain or that will affect your personal growth. How many times have we accepted someone disrespecting us? Someone walking all over us? Although it is affecting you, but you don't say anything just because you want to protect that friendship. How many times you have to say yes, although you know for sure the answer in your head is a no, but you do it just to satisfy that friend. There are a couple verses that talks about how we should choose our friends or who we should walk with as friends. So Starlene gonna read the first one in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, and Valnisha going to read 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33. And you guys are going to tell us what you think about these verses. All right, let's go started.
All right, so we've got Proverbs 13, verse 20. It says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. And it goes back to the toxic relationship that Friendly Kindness was talking about. Because a toxic relationship is not just a relationship where you feel threatened. That's the highest level of a toxic relationship. When you feel like either physically you're not safe or emotionally you're not safe. But you can also be in a toxic relationship where you feel like the worst version of you is being brought out. Like you're not your best self when you're with this person. There's something about this person that when you're with them or when you interact with them, that doesn't uplift you to be the best version of who you can be in Christ. And that's exactly what that verse is talking about. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. Because sometimes we think that, you know, we can be who we are and hang out with whomever, and that is not going to have an effect on us. But we are people, and we are influenced by the people that we hang around with. So whether we want to or not, right? If I myself am the only Christian in a circle of a bunch of non-Christians, it's more likely that they are going to have an effect on me instead of me having an effect on them. And even inside the church, this could be the case because not everyone in the church is at the spiritual level that they should be or is, you know, in the church to be saved. So we have to be very mindful of how our relationships is influencing us to be better, to become wiser, or are we having relationships that are, you know, bringing out the negative sides of who we are?
1 Corinthians 15, verse 33, do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. If you allow someone who is toxic to get too close to you, their toxicness will transfer to you. You will start to believe, thank you so much. You will start to act the way that they act, speak the way that they speak, you know, dress like them, believe in what they believe in because you feel as if, you know, this person's already close to me, we're getting connected, we're tight, we're best friends, and you believe what they're doing is okay. Ou pensez comme si yo moun ki go mauvais caractère, ou ki te moun sa vin pi pro, ou vin pro, ou pensez agir même jak moun sa. And it ruins who you are because you know who you were before you met them. But because maybe you felt alone, you allowed their toxicness to enter your life. Now you already so immune to it, you can't even leave that relationship or that friendship. Which people vont après, but because I'm with this person, I'm friends with this person, you know, you start to see changes in your life because you are allowing those bad companies to influence who you should be or who you aren't.
All right, it looks like Dave want to add something. Mr. President, can we get him a mic? He want to say something.
Yes, a lot of the times, I like that you guys say that. A lot of the times, our young people, and I used to be the same way too, and when I got older, I realized, we often say, oh, I can change the person. You know, when you're hanging out with someone that doesn't have the same beliefs or character, well, why are you with that person? You know, we always want to say, I can change that person, or, you know, they're not that bad. You're judging them. So what are we saying to our young people? Because I don't think we get it. You know, too many times I think we should add that rotten fruit will turn good fruit rotten. Yes. I've never seen rotten fruit turn good because it's already rotted. Yep. Too many times we think because we're good, we can turn somebody bad good. And it may happen, but I've rarely heard only Jesus did that. Yes. But too many times in life, rotten fruit turns other fruit rotten. And I think our young people really need to drive into that, especially when you start to get older, you go off to college, and no one is watching you and things like that. You hang out with, you know, the Haitians say, so fréquenté, c'est surveillé. So we need to be very careful with that.
Yeah, and the Bible is clear. We just read those two verses. And you can see that those verses, they highlight some of the people that we need to stay away from. Ignorant, the fools, the violent, whether it is physical, emotional, or verbal. We need to stay away from the lazy, from the careless, from the seductive people, from the addicted, from the manipulators, from the dividers. All these people, we need to stay away from them. Now, it doesn't mean that we cannot evangelize them. It doesn't mean that we cannot talk to them. But it means that we need to be wise as far as the people we allow to be in our circle. Because if that doesn't happen, there's going to be a cost. Now, before we get to that, Starlene want to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to the point you were saying about, you know, knowing who your friends are and knowing who has the positive impact in your life, and to what you were saying, it doesn't mean that you can't talk to these people. It doesn't mean, and I have an example, in like 2 examples actually, that I want to give just for practical life. When I was in college, I had roommates that weren't Seventh-day Adventists. And, you know, those were my friends. But we had to understand, they had to understand that I had boundaries of certain things that I do and don't do. And they were Haitian, and we were young Haitian ladies, and of course, we wanted to cook together. And I told them from the get-go, there are things that I don't eat. So if you want to cook together, then we're going to have to not cook these things that I don't eat. Now, those are my boundaries. I'm not forcing that on you. If you want to eat these things, then we're going to have to cook separately. You cook your meals and I'll cook my meals. And, you know, eventually they ended up, it wasn't something that they were that serious about, so we just decided to all cook together. But for the 5 years that we were roommates, they would eat those things outside of the house. But they knew that in order for us to retain this rotation of us sharing meals and cooking together, that was a boundary for me that couldn't be crossed. That's, you know, you can have those relationships, but you just have to make it clear to them. And believe me, they're gonna respect you for it. A lot of times we're afraid of losing our friends. We're afraid of letting them know what we believe in. But once they know, and they know that you stand on business and you explain it to them, they're gonna have more respect for you for letting them know what you're about. And even those same friends, they knew, like we would go out to restaurants and different things, but they knew Friday nights was off limits for me. They would go and have their thing. On Friday night, they wouldn't even bother to invite me or to tell me because they knew that that was my belief. And even now at work, they'll have happy hour on Fridays and different things like that. But they know on certain days, certain things, Starlene is not involved. So it's very important that whatever relationships that you have, if that person does not believe what you believe, it's up to you to let them know what your boundary is, what your faith is, and why, and they're gonna respect you for it. But the thing is, once you tell them, you yourself cannot compromise on that boundary. Because sometimes what we do is we'll put that boundary there, but it's a soft boundary. So you're gonna lose that respect if you give them that boundary, but sometimes you're willing to cross it. No, it's a thing that once you give it, it can't be crossed. And that's how it holds still and gains you that respect.
Absolutely. I think we have 2 hands. We have Shanika here, and I have another young lady on that side. Blusha, if you can help me. And Dave, you want to say something as well, right? No, you good? Okay. We got Shanika and then this young lady over there.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My question is about toxic relationship, especially when it comes with parents and kids. And my question is, what advice would you give with young adults that are dealing with parental situation that is toxic?
That is a very important question. Although we're not taking questions yet, but since we were just on that subject, talking about toxic relationship, what advice can we give a parent? We can give the young adults. All right. Let me try to give an answer, and then after that, I'm going to ask my panelists if they have anything they want to add, or anyone else. Setting boundaries is key. It is a defender for yourself. Because a lot of time, and Stalin mentioned that earlier, if you don't set boundaries from the get-go, you put yourself in a very difficult situation. And a lot of time, when you're dealing with a toxic relationship, it damages things. It damages your emotion. It can damage your spirit. It can damage your mind and your well-being. And this is why it is important to set up those boundaries. I would say if you did not have boundaries set, start working on setting boundaries. And I will repeat that again. When you set boundaries, it is to protect you, not to protect the other person. And a lot of time we tend to satisfy our friends. We tend to make them feel good while you yourself, you are in pain, you are hurt, but your needs are not addressed. So you have to set boundaries that are able to protect yourself. Because this is your defense, your line of defense. And anytime you are in a relationship where there are no boundaries, and they know that there are no boundaries, a lot of people, they take advantage of that. Because they know you have no defense. You have no way to react. So I would start from there. Starlene, I don't know if you want to add anything, and if you want to add anything regarding her question as well, as far as advice is.
Yeah, it's a very sensitive question, but it's something that is very prevalent in our community.
Yeah.
Because I'm Haitian, I love being Haitian. If you know anything about me, I'm Haitian to the core. But at the same time, one thing we have to admit is that we have a lot of unhealthy habits from our parents that come from a place of a place of ignorance, a place of from a lack of knowing, right? And as children, when we grow up, and this is not to blame our parents, because our parents, they give us what they have. And that's what I always say to anyone. 99% of young Haitian adults have trauma, right? And this is not just Haitian, Caribbean in general, right? Have trauma. And I'm saying that coming from probably one of the best homes that I know, right? Coming from one of the best homes, I know that there's a lot worse than what I came from. But we grow up and we endure a lot of things because it's our home, it's where we live. But as young adults, ça que en pile nan parents haïtiens genyen, c'est que they always feel like parce que nous c'est petit yo, they have a right to us. They have, c'est comme si you're their territory, you're theirs. Right? And one of the things that we can do, first of all, what I always tell people, if you're dealing with a lot of trauma from growing up in a Haitian household, the best thing that you can do for yourself is go to therapy. Parce que, first of all, your parents gave you what they know. They could not have given you anything else. You pray for them and you forgive them, right? now, and you go to therapy to heal yourself. As a young adult, you still control how much of what they're doing you're willing to have in your life. And that's gonna depend on how much trauma we're talking about, right? Because there's different levels, there's different things. I believe in honoring your parents. I believe in, helping your parents in their old age, so I would never advise not to do that. Regardless of how you grew up, I advise everyone to honor your parents because, again, most Haitian parents I know did the best that they could, and they deserve to have that honor. However, there are still things that as a young adult, outside of your parents' home, you can still have your boundaries to say, I had to take this when I was 13, but now I don't have to take this as a 23-year-old. I don't have to take this as a 25-year-old. It's your mental sanity. It's your mental sanity, and I'm not gonna advise otherwise. It is what it is. At one point, you have to take control of, you can try to fix the behavior, but if it's not gonna be fixed, right, because some things are just not fixable. If it's not gonna be fixed, then it's your responsibility to put that boundary to protect your well-being as a young adult.
Bon, Stalin, il est où Kaila, c'est eux même qui payent tout le temps là, ou doit respecter principes Jean dit.
Notice I said living outside of your parents' house, oui, in the beginning. Living outside of your parents' house. Now, even being in your parents' house, again, gon bon bagay que parents haïtiens pas comprendre, you cannot treat même les moun nan dans la caillou. Ou pas qu'à treat a 13-year-old the same way. You cannot treat a 25-year-old living in your house the same way you treated them when they were 13 or when they were 12. Again, there are boundaries to be set. But again, nous besoin respect nous as a young adult, c'est nous qui pour faire respect nous. Sometimes I'm not advising anybody to move outside of the house. But, I'm ouvrir en parenthèse, et puis m'a tout fermer, and then m'a buy Valnisha, right? Sometimes we are college graduates, we're living at our parents' house, et puis we're working, nous besoin parents nous treat us as adults, but nous pas kon build l'eau, nous pas kon build lumière, nous pas kon build caille, nous pas kon si gen manger dans frigidaire. We know nothing. We don't spend any money we're still living off of our parents, but we're expecting our parents to treat us as adults. So both things have to also happen. Even if you're living in your parents' house, it doesn't mean you can't be an adult. It doesn't mean you don't know that your parents have bills. You can tell your parents, hey, maman, met $600 pour moi ça, man, whatever it is to help you with your stuff. You're being an adult. You're showing your parents that you're responsible. You're helping. Because think about it, you're not paying a mortgage, you're still saving. So that helps you to be able to put those boundaries while living in your parents' house, because now they're seeing you as a responsible person that they can treat as a responsible person.
If I may add, just for a little bit, we have to, as young adults, please understand your parents. They had a rough start. Especially for the ones, especially pour parents nous qui fait Haïti, qui grandit Haïti, qui live Haïti. What we want, the soft life, they never had it. So when they finally have children, they're very strict because they don't want you to go through what they went through. My mom, she had 4 girls. But it's not her fault because she's been through so much to have us. Now that we're adults, she's making sure we don't make the same mistake that she made. What we call toxic is actually discipline. I'm sorry to say, yes, I'm a young person, but I need you guys to understand that. Oh, my dad is toxic, my mom is toxic. No, you just hate discipline. You want to be a good one so bad, but let be la vini. Oh, I wish I could stay at my mom's house. I'm telling you, I'm 23 years old. I'm not going nowhere until I get married. I'm staying right at Semi-Mo's house. You know why? Because it's a lot out there. So they still love you. Your parents love you. You just have to make sure you understand where they are coming from. If you don't understand your parents, what you think is toxicness is actually their hurt. They're still in pain. They still see me, Zay, IET. They still see it. They still miss their homeland. So now they're bringing that on you, not because they hate you, but they want the best for you. But we want the soft life. They never had the soft life. So we have to give them the soft life in our adulthood.
All right. Okay. We got, is that Didi? All right. She want to add something, and then we're gonna have the other young lady.
What I'm about to say is for my younger adults or teenagers that's growing up. Because when I was a teenager and I was growing up, I always thought that my mom didn't want me to do nothing. Mbaka ale en rien côté, seulement l'église la caille l'école seulement. But when I'm seulement en seul petit maman de gen caille, so m'ka we frère moi y a parti, m'baka aller n'importe côté. Aussi moi de maman maman m'ka aller en côté examen, il dit qui mon a là, à qui là, like she's asking a lot of questions. My brothers is different. It was not fair. Sleepovers, back inside yes. But growing up now, at first when I was younger, I did not understand. It was not fair. I would do, like, I'm gonna be honest, this is transparency. I would sneak out of the house. My mom goes to work at night, I will leave the house when she leaves, just to go and have fun. But now growing up, I see why my mom did what she did when I was growing up. Because I left my mom's house before already. I came back. Because ça qui était dehors, il pas pour moi. M'bat comprendre ça. So for the younger adults that's growing up, do not think that what your mom is telling you guys you can't go certain places or you guys won't understand, because I didn't understand at all. But you could be at the wrong place at the wrong time. People lost their lives just by walking, just by crossing the street. So please, if your parents is talking to your parents that want you to go somewhere, oh, they get on rêve, ça qui t'arrive, believe them. Mother knows, okay? So this is just an advice that I'm giving to the younger adults. Like, don't think that your parents is really, is not toxic, like what Sister Vanisha said. It is not toxic, it's discipline. What they're trying to do is discipline you to live a better life, so they don't do the same mistake that they had done in the past. That's it.
All right. All right, Dave.
As an educator, though, I could see both sides of it. There are some households that are toxic. Yeah. There's some households I understand Valnisha's point about discipline. I understand your point about safety, but there are some households that I pray for the child where they're going. Because some parents only understand one thing, baton. They never talk to the child. They never sit down and talk to the child. There's some students, I know their situation, and I would dare not call their parent. Because the only thing the parent know, mapkalo. And they beat them to the point that some of these kids, they're immune to the whooping. They're like George, Pastor Fleurmont was saying now, they take the tears, cry for 2 seconds, and I'm good again. Yeah. And those kids, when they leave home, they don't go back. They don't talk to their parents no more. I hear some girls who say, I can't wait to get out the house because of what they're going through. And so I think some of our understanding, they do their best. I agree with you. But some of our parents need to be trained. Not to disrespect them, but we're not living in Haiti no more. You got to talk to your child. Because when you push that young girl out, the first dude that says, I love you to her, she's going to take it. Or that young man, or if you tell him, the first person who he gravitates to and teaches him another way, he's going to gravitate to that. And that's why the prison system has a lot of our Haitian men in there. And so some of our parents, I'm not disrespecting any parent. I love my Haitian community. That's why I serve the Haitian. But some of our parents need to talk to the child. When the talking doesn't work, then we can go to the beating. But the first thing you say about kalo, and I mean when they kale, to the point the child can't walk. I'm like, what's the point? What are you doing? We need to speak. We need to learn. We need to adjust. And there's other things that I would tell our students, our children, if you're going through something in the Haitian household, and I want parents to understand this, in the Haitian household, one of the things that we grew up, when we had to walk in, we had to salute everybody. And I used to hate going home and seeing a whole bunch of people in my living room because you had to kiss all of them and, Papa Munsa. Some Haitian men are perverts. And what are you training the child to do? And when you're not there, they come home, they're living with an uncle that's a perv and he's trying to kiss. There is boundaries that we can set as parents with our children. So we need to be very careful of what we're instilling in our children, because when that child is abused and then later on down the road, they're telling you that they were sexually abused by this person, that person, and you're not believing them. So we need to be very careful in what we're talking about as far as boundaries. I respect my parents. I understood they did their best, and I'm happy that my parents were a little bit more understanding, but I do understand that some children are suffering and going through a lot, and they do need outlets and that's where we come into play, where we can help those children out or help that child out so that parents can really, truly understand what the child is going through.
Thank you. So you see, education is key. All right. Last comment, and then because we have another young lady who had a question earlier, we haven't get.
Bonsoir. Comment nous basically, je connais venir après, mais ma petit bail tout petit dans toxique là. Les que petite la dit, ça toxique là, m'a parlé besoin d'expérience. Moi élevé 4 filles pour compte pas. C'est moi que maman, moi que t'es papa. Donc moi voulais faire de best que m'étais capable pour m'étais capable bayo. Mais en pile bagay que m'étais qu'on a dit yo te dit m'étais gen tout non. Yo dit comme ça moi prétentieux et gen qui te dit comme ça m'étais tout net. Mais quand y a yo tout vin grand, et mes premier sac gen petite li a, c'est li premier qui te dit comme ça, il te dit tout bagay. Mais quand y a il gen petite li. Bon pas ka ken bébé là non? M'a ken bébé là m'dande, oh, wa pas tout y bébé là oui. Oh, pas ka ken bébé tête bien non? Oh, yo machine gen, oh, machine là c'est pour pit là seulement les m'a sorti. M'di oh, m'di c'est ou même qui t'a dit tout ba et dit m'pas comprendre. Il dit mais qu'on y a comprendre. Ouais koto te yé. Les que ou t'a parlé m'nan, yo te dit moi overprotective. M'di ben plutôt over tant monde ou bien tant pas même. Et bien qu'on y a ou a parlé de overprotective, et bien lui-même li extra. Non, overprotective. Bah, sérieux? Donc, et gen parents, plutôt nous over, tant nous pas même ou bien on de. Parce que demain, si Dieu veut, dès qu'on a dit pour ranger cabane, faire manger, etc. Mais qu'on y a mal, c'est merci à dire. Tellement yo qu'on fait, tout ça yo gen pour yo faire. Donc, si c'est discipliné, oui, d'accord. Parents haïtiens, nous go to a lot. Avec single mom, yes, I go to a lot. But m'ba regret rien parce qu'on y a c'est eux même cap dit many. Mes amis, bon Dieu fait me qu'on fait ça. Bon Dieu fait me qu'on fait ça. Mes amis, mon c'est de ti moun dans cabine côté mal, ti moun yo mal propre. Ti moun yo pas bon Dieu fait moi même qu'on fait ça. Eh bien, m'bito over tant monde ou bien paraît toxique parce que l'or fini m'vinn comprendre que parents t'a dit Ah, y a pour trop, l'on a venu chez point de crayon, ou à connaître. Et bien, vient comprendre, les a venu chez point de crayon, l'on sous bureau ou a écrit, qui sont fait plume non, parfois on mette le dans bouche. Eh bien, c'est ça, les on vient chita sous bureau, yo vient qu'on y a enseigner. Puis gros enseignant c'est eux même. Puis gros monde qui a discipliné c'est eux même. Eh bien, c'est qu'on y a vient comprendre discipline que m'te qu'on a bail, alors parents, co toxique, co pas toxique, discipliné mais pas abusé. C'est seul ça ou gain pour pas faire. Et puis ou pas abuser. OK, ou parler. Elle fin ou pas n'a fait caler en pile là. Moi m'était tellement prend coup Haïti, mesdames cassées, c'est n'en prend coup pour Grémessi, m'te prend coup et c'est pour Grémessi en pile nan yo. Mais ou pas abuser. Et puis moi-même, je ne peux pas bailler dans dos, je ne peux pas bailler dans quel côté, dans déploiement, parce que déploiement pas de marque. Ou te mettez 50 dans chaque plat main. Là, il finit rouge, il mette dans de l'eau. Je ne peux pas bailler dans derrière, je ne peux pas bailler dans poignette. Si vous ratez plat main, ou album poignette là pour y venir mettre dans prison, je vais 10 mettre sous lui. Déploiement pour bailler. Depuis plat mais en pas gen mak même. Depuis autant de calé yo parce que connaissez dans plat mais depuis yo pas arrêté font bail c'est plat mais yo longe. OK? Discipliné.
All right. Pastor enlevé main, so let's get him real quick. But we do have to make sure that we don't abuse our kids. Right? Et c'est pas tout bagay qui mérite bâton. Gen bagay c'est chita ou parler ensemble avec et Timounan ou adresser pour capable comprendre. Gen on l'âge Timounan arrivé, c'est pas bâton pour baler. C'est comprendre pour essayer de faire comprendre.
Frères et sœurs, bonsoir. Va nous pas répondre moi bonsoir. Feja. All right. En réalité, moi, comprendre l'intervention sur Roselène parce que façon de comprendre bagay yo pas seulement lié à volonté nous, mais yo lié tout à génération. Cependant, nous live 1, deuxièmement, li pas recommandé du tout légalement pour nous lever main sur Timon. Non, si un parent décide personnellement faire ça, il peut faire. Mais en tant qu'institution, nous obligés d'éviter vendre l'idée, même si ce n'est pas ça que dans l'esprit sur Roselène, que nous accepter bâton, nous promoter bâton et nous garder comme une méthode pour capable grandir Timon. Moi, je pense que gagner plusieurs méthodes en sciences de l'éducation qui ont utilisé, qui vraiment aidé. Gagner une approche qui est l'approche par problème. Qui ça approche par problème? Le Timon n'a fait un désordre. Des fois, l'esprit Timon n'a même pas prendre pile bâton. Et moi, bon moment d'arriver, bâton va te faire encore. When I want to go outside to play, je tout préparer l'esprit pour prendre l'album. 10 coups de bâton, je tout mettre 5 coups de pantalon sous moi. Papa m'a bail bâton, m'a fait gros bruit, corvée, monsieur a fait. Parce que je ne pas sentir rien. Now, pendant ce temps, les papas utilisé pour retirer privilège que le bambio, moi plus apprendre que l'aime prendre bâton. Par exemple, dans qui privilège? Le nous grandit à Haïti, qui ont bagay ouais si on jeune Haïti pour samedi après-midi pour grand monde qui to la caillou, c'est plus gros crime yo faut. Because you cannot go outside to play parce que aujourd'hui c'est sabbat ou chitan no ka ou bagay rien faire. The only way that you can play is to go to your church and to play with your friends. And my dad said, let me tell you something. Souvin l'église ou parle en pile ou faire des ordres après-midi ou après la caille. Et demi-matin pour aller dans la dévotion. I'm telling you, si Jésus vient, c'est plus bon petit monde. Donc, dans la génération, pas nous, il y a un paquet de bagages. Il y a une approche en sciences de l'éducation qui est le behaviorisme. Le behaviorisme, c'est une approche qui chita sur question comportement. Et dans le behaviorisme, et Watson, qui c'est un grand penseur qui vient avec méthode d'éducation qui est le behaviorisme, il y a un bagage, les stimuli. Qui ça dit? L'on veut que faire un bagage. Ou bail un bagage pour stimuler. Par exemple, vous dites, let me tell you, si vous clean chambre bien, demain si tu veux, ma acheter ice cream pour. Et éducateur, il fait comprendre que à la minute qu'on bail timoun un bagage pour stimuler les plus intérêt pour faire ça qui bon que l'on bail un stimulant pour faire peur. Nous ne pouvons pas une approche pour yo peur. Il faut nous une approche pour capable faire sentir avantage que nous ça. Par exemple, si nous regardons TV, ou dit si nous sous pas clean chamou, moi prends remote là, non TV. Nous pas obligés d'utiliser méthode bâton pour nous résoudre le problème parce que non seulement dans le pays nous vivons là légalement. Ils ne sont pas d'accord avec l'approche bâton parce qu'ils regardent comme on abuse. Même si vous connaissez pareil, c'est samedi à sortir dans les oreilles gauche et dans les oreilles droites. But if you want to do it, faites. Mais ce n'est pas l'église là, comme institution, qui vient avec ça comme une méthode pour capable corriger Timon. Donc, je pense qu'en tant que parents, bat pour nous amis Timounio, bat pour nous comprendre Timounio, et puis parents haïtiens, parfait Timounio vivent dans la génération noire. This is the big problem of my young people. Grand monde, vous voulez faire grand monde, tout nous pas grand monde. There's certain things that you don't like. It's because vous pas fait dans la même génération avec nous. C'est normal pour frère Josias, bon série de bagailles que le remet. Et normal pour le remet parce que le grandit dans la génération. Mais après, un petit monde qui a 12 ans dans l'église n'a pas remet. C'est parce que vous pas dans la même génération. Donc, it's very important as a parents pour nous comprendre que nous parlons la vie même gens. Et Lucas, comme ça, nous avons, là, on parle de worldview. Chaque génération a une vision de réalité. Donc, on nous essaye d'utiliser méthode pas problème, approche pas problème, utiliser ça ou les behavioristes, dans souci pour nous stimuler Timounio, pour nous capable de des provocateurs positifs, dit Timoun sous clean chamou, mais nous sortir, nous pas ensemble avec vous, sous fait tel bagage, mais qui ça m'a fait, mais piga nous rend tout, que nous venons tomber nos partenariats Timoun, qu'on y a tout Timoun fait un bagage qui bon, faut qu'on baille un bagage autour. Est-ce que je suis clair, frères et sœurs? Mais nous battons pour nous utiliser des méthodes appropriées par la prière. Et puis pareil, c'est bon fin dit ça m'a dit pour nous remettre micro. Back pour nous spend time with your kids. Let me say that louder. Passer temps avec Timounio. Dans mois de janvier, nous allons toucher l'argent taxe Timounio sous d'autres Timounio. Suspend à acheter terre Haïti avec l'argent Timounio dans taxe. Prends l'argent taxe Timouna, ou acheter terre sous dol, ou changer machine, ou fantôme, ou voyer moun parti. Et puis Timouna là, ou va jamais mener dans le parc. Timouna là, va jamais aller côté jouer avec. Timouna vit Florida, va jamais connaître côté Disney World, là Orlando. Bam dit ça comme chita. Nous pas passer temps. Un pile parent pense que passer temps Timouna, c'est pour discipliner. Grand pile parents qui seulement get temps pour Timouna mettre l'autre dans Timouna. Laisse Timouna va prendre l'autre là au sérieux. You have to spend time with your kids. Là yo a fait ça qui doit. Nous même pareil, c'est nous manquer apprécier. Timouna dit maman, on fait ah oui dans l'école là. Oh comment pour pas faire ah? What talking about? Ou man boy, yo va à l'école ou pas travail, venir coucher comme si vous pas faire ah. It's not so good. Donc, il est vraiment important pour nous passer temps avec Timounio, pour nous utiliser des méthodes appropriées, parce que the abuse one is not a great method. Il n'est pas une méthode recommandée à aucun niveau dans l'institution pour nous capables d'éduquer Timounio. May God bless you. Thank you.
All right. We have this young lady over here. You good now? All right. All right. So, Mbosse again.
Yeah, a couple things I want to say. Je pense que li ta bon pour nous ta faire l'autre présentation, pour nous faire une différence détaillée de ça que nous voulons dire, nous parler de toxicity and trauma, et ça qui est acceptable comme discipline. Because c'est pas dit que nous dit pour ti moun yo pas discipliné, but we have to understand que dans la communauté nous, really and truly, toxicité en la façon que nous élever ti moun yo li existe, the trauma li existe, and again, it's not because a lot of times it's not because nous faisons parce que nous voulons, but nous faisons parce que c'est ça nous connaît, c'est ça nous travaille. So there's a lot of people in the community, like Mr. Educator here that we have, qui capable faire une série de formations pour parents yo, qui pour établir une différence for them of when is it discipline and when is it abuse? When is it discipline and when is it that m'a quitté yon effet négatif nan ti moun nan qui pral affecter la ville negatively in the future? Because like one example that I want to give, bâton, one of the things que nous pas réaliser, c'est que bâton en soi, li sorti, c'est un héritage de l'esclavage que lié. Li pas en rien encore. En pile des fois ça que nous utilisons pour nous bâtir moun yo, c'est ça yo te qu'on utiliser pour battre esclaves yo. So là nous sorti de l'esclavage. Pas jamais gagne une éducation qui fait dès que yo te qu'on fait nous vinn penser que li normal pour nous faire petit nous li, même rigoise yo, même matinette yo, même fil courant yo, mes amis. Ça yo c'est héritage esclavage que yo est. And another thing que nous pas réaliser, là nous bâti moun yo trop discipline physique, bon dire comme ça. Bien que des fois it goes beyond discipline non, nous apprendre petite fille nous yo que le normal pour un garçon lever main sous lui. Nous apprendre petit garçon nous yo que le normal pour yo lever main sous madame yo, and then the cycle continues, yo fait petit yo li, it continues and it continues and it continues. Ça veut dire que faut nous faire une série d'éducation pour nous connaître qui ça qui acceptable, qui ka bay même rendement disciplinaire que nous voulons pour ti moun yo ka grow up and be a functional adults sans que nous pas quitter yon bagay nan yo qui pral faire yo pas gain un trauma de merci Dieu.
Elle de Josias.
Question moi voulais poser. Si vous avez éduqué, vous avez levé un petit monde et que vous communiquez avec petit monde, ou parler avec, ou dire pas faire ça une première fois, une deuxième fois, jusqu'à une troisième fois, et petit monde a continué à faire même action. Comment on peut aider un parent dans des conditions pareilles?
Et je pense que c'est une très très belle question. Il y a un bagage pour essayer de comprendre. Et en éducation, il dit ça tout. Chaque monde apprend une façon. Lorsque rentrer dans la salle de classe, there are some people who are visual learners. There are some people et faut que c'est toucher pour qu'on faire et puis y a comprendre. It goes the same way dans la façon que nous avons éduqué les gens, dans la façon que nous avons parlé ensemble avec les gens. Si nous utilisons un modèle pour nous communiquer avec les gens, and you see the first time it did not work, the second time it did not work, the third time it did not work, ou ka obligé changer formule que vous utilisez. Et je garantis que comment utiliser le modèle qui a marché pour tout le monde qui a gagné. ou après automatiquement, ils suivent ça que vous dites là. Et en pile fois, tout parents fait erreur ça. Ou ka gen 2 ou 3 petits moun nous essayer pour nous traiter tout même gens, while they are 3 different and distinct people. Yo pas apprendre même gens, yo pas comprendre même gens, so discipline que nous appliquons à eux maintenant, li supposé une discipline qui individualisée. Chaque monde ou fonctionner avec lui yon façon. Donc là on fait comme ça, ou a une plus bonne chance pour que the desired outcome that you're looking for, that you can get it. Now it doesn't mean that la machine dans tout cas, gen ti moun ou ka di ça n'importe 50 fois ou utiliser 50 formules qui différentes et yon nan ou pas marcher. And this is when ou checker en thérapie Jean Stalin dit, ou checker thérapie parce que gen un pile et ti moun qui fait mais qui gagne une série de problèmes qui fait que n'importe gens on dit là ou pas comprendre, n'importe l'autre gens on dit là ou pas appliquer. Mais il y a un professionnel qui là pour ça et qui est capable d'utiliser une série de bagages pour faire ti moun nan li faire ça que le besoin faire. All right.
One thing before no bypass there, one thing I would like to add to that, des fois, as parents, I'm not a parent, but I've observed a lot of young people. Des fois, il y a une raison qui fait que nous pas qu'à jouer un résultat que nous voulons avec Timounio is because we focus on the behavior and not the root cause. En pile des fois, Timoun n'a gon façon que l'agit, l'a essayer satisfaire un besoin qui plus profond. And until besoin satisfait, l'a toujours, it doesn't matter conséquence ou balia. They will continue to do what they are doing so they can satisfy that profound need. And until we get to that need, I'm going to give you just need. Like, par exemple, on ti moun qui gen un self-esteem issue. Et qui gen un low self-esteem issue. En pile des fois, si moun sa yo, it doesn't matter si zami an pral touye tête yo, pral fon bagay, whatever group la fait, that's what they wanna do, parce que c'est comme ça yo valide tête yo. This is how they find their self-worth. If they are not fitting in with the group, they are not anybody. Ça veut dire que en pile des fois ça que nous si moun a fait, c'est un zami qui a fait. And until si moun sa gagne yon understanding of who they are outside of that group, pour yo connaît que yo gen if they don't do this, they will still be Starling. If they don't do this, they will still be who they are. Then pa gen anyen que wap ka fe. Pa gen anyen wap ka bay ti moun sa comme conséquence to prevent them from that behavior. So we have to get to the root cause of why they are doing what they are doing. Therefore, we focus on the what. We don't focus on the why. It's a why that is causing the behavior. And only when you solve the why are you going to find your solution.
Mais je voulais dire l'autre bagaille tout. Dans la communauté haïtienne, pas seulement dans la communauté haïtienne, mais en pile fois en tant que parents, dans la façon dont nous éduquer Timounio, nous plus focus sur interdiction que nous focus sur raison qui fait nous pas vouloir Timounio faire ça. Dans la génération noire, il y aurait de génération noire, generation Gen Z, il y aurait les génération Y. Si moun qui fait dans la génération ça, qui grandi dans la génération ça, pas d'accord qu'on dit ou pas font bagay sou pas yon explication. Et en pile fois nous même pas haïtiens, nous grandis ti moun yo avec une série de habitudes que nous venons développer en principe et habitude ça ou pas quelle explication. Nous on dit ti moun nan pas faire ça. nous pas qu'à mettre le chita pour nous expliquer qui raison pour pas faire ça et n'attendre pour pas faire ça. That's not gonna work. Now, as a parents, il y a une chose que nous capables de faire qui est important. Avant nous porter interdiction, expliquer si nous avons qui raison qui fait que nous ne pouvons pas faire ça. Let me give you a simple example. We have a big problem right now in our community. There's a lot of young people qui scap fumer. They smoke. C'est pas vrai ça? As a parent, sometimes, là nous dit que nous ne pas fumer, qui ça nous dit? Ou c'est petit bon Dieu? Quand c'est temps, c'est esprit bon Dieu, you don't have to smoke. This is not a good reason. As a parent, si nous faisons recherche sur weed là, pour dire que nous n'allons fumer, mais comment affecter le cerveau? Mais comment lui détruire la capacité cervelaire qui doit pousser le focus sur ces deux bagages. L'autre dit que nous regardons dans la rue, on sait de monde qui tombe dans l'addiction à fumer, mais qui ça devenu, mais qui est sérieux. Non! Si vous n'avez non seulement li pour qui sont dit pas faire ça, mais li comprennent qui raison valable qui chita pour dire pas faire ça. Et m'a fini pour me dire en pile fois dans l'église adventiste, grand pile jeune qui quitte l'église, c'est parce que l'église nous a plus focus sur ça qui interdit que l'église a focus sur ça qui permet. Est-ce que nous voulons prendre un exemple? Yo dit adventiste pas fête Noël. Adventiste pas fête fête demain. Adventiste pas fait fête de paix. Adventiste pas fait fête mort. Qui ça adventiste pas fait encore? Adventiste pas mettre bijoux. Qui ça veut dire encore? Là, si nous avons grandi l'église a seulement interdiction. Nous seulement disons ça adventiste pas d'accord faire yo. Mais nous pas jamais focus sur ça yo même yo qu'a fait pour yo épanouir. Le fait que nous pas dire que ou pas dans le club, mais l'église a fait une soirée pour nous enjoy. Sans nous obliger à aller dans le club. Donc, au lieu que nous chita seulement sur ça qui interdit, il faut que nous proposer l'autre bagaille à jeunes. And Saturday afternoon, and Saturday night, si nous réalisons dans la communauté, dans l'église, un pile jeune dans le club, ce n'est pas prier pour nous prier pour eux, pour dans le club. What do you propose as a church? Well, I think it's very important, not only pour nous expliquer le principe là, mais pour nous capables de montrer que ce n'est pas interdiction pour ne pas faire ça seulement, mais tout raison de faire pas de faire ça. Et m'a fini pour me dire, moi je comprends frère Josias et je suis d'accord avec frère Josias. Au-delà de toute méthode, on peut utiliser, chaque monde a volonté. Ou même à l'étudier toute méthode qui existait, si on a décidé pour échouer, ou pas qu'à faire réussir. Et m'a fini pour me dire, pas parce qu'on continue à échouer qu'il fait le bon mauvais parent, parce que Jésus n'est pas un mauvais maître, mais Judas a échoué. Thank you.
Right, Elder Josias, on a fini. Ok, gon l'autre main avant parler. Puisque vous avez posé question, on a quitté en dernier sur question. I see another hand here, and then Elder Josias. Yes.
I wanted to say that the basic thing that can put all of it together is building a relationship. Because for me to know what motivates you, I will have to have a relationship with you. That's with parents and that's with romantic relationships. I can't know what motivates you. I can't know what upset you. Just like God, we have to continue to grow. We have to continue to quote each other. So I can't just get baptized and it's like once a Christian, always a Christian. That method doesn't work in the church. And that method doesn't work in friendship or marriages either. I think what we struggle with is building a relationship because that takes more time. If I know you, then I know what motivates you. Also, I think something that no one told me growing up, my parents were not my friend. But as I grow, our relationship changed to a friendship and we're able to discuss more and we're able to do more. Because in the community, one thing I know is you can take something and hold it so hard and you can break it, especially raising young women, right? But then you have to hold it. What you care about, you protect. What you care about, you hold. I remember one time doing a ride we had 6 kids in one car with a black male, right, with a white girl. Guys, we called each of those parents to come get those kids so they wouldn't go to juvie. Only the white girl's parents showed up and picked her up. How do you have children in this world and you sleeping soundly in your house? How? And those kids ended up in juvie with a record. So, like I said, if you have something in your house, you're gonna protect it, right? We protect our cars. You know where your car keys are. You know where your house is. You make sure it's locked. It's the same way with your kids. Unfortunately, in the Haitian community, I'm glad we're having this conversation now, but we don't have the balance. We need to be able to find the balance and break the cycle. Give grace to your parents, and parents give grace to children. You do not own a child. A child is a gift from God. So when he comes back, he's gonna see what you give. And what you give, just like we're God's image, your children are your image. I thought, as soon as I get to be an adult and I get my own place, listen, because I was told, when you are after 11, make sure you can sleep there, right? Now guess what? I don't go home after 11. I'm already home. And I can tell you, being in the community, nothing after 11, nothing good happens after 11. My parents used to tell me there's only a few things that's open after 11 and you don't want to be one of them. Those things are still in my head, but now I understand them better. So in order for us to understand things better, life is one of those things, you live it forward, but you learn it backwards. So give yourself time, and the decisions that you make today can impact you forever. I've seen people with DUIs, I've seen people with criminal records, and it's hard to explain those things. In America, you don't want to ruin your credit, and you do not want to ruin your history, because you cannot change those things sometimes. So be careful who you with.
Thank you. Thank you. Great, great answer. Elder Josias, let's close this out.
Thank you. Oui, nous entendons un pile belle réponse. Et toute réponse, yo, OK. Utilisez ceinturon, utilisez bâton supposé de last resort. Li pas ta supposé utiliser à aucun moment de la durée, mais la Bible nous dit, dans Proverbe 23, verset 13 à 15, it says, do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. If you strike him with the rod, you will save his soul from Sheol, my son. If your heart is wise, my heart too will be glad. C'est pas dit nous dit que nous obligés bâtir moun yo. Mais la Bible demande pour nous élever ti moun yo tout si yo fait surtout ça jour-ci petit nous yo jeune nous yo vient challenge parents. The challenge is up for our kids these days. Les nous à travailler dans jeunesse. Les nous à travailler dans jeunesse. Nous devons travailler et nous qu'on fait régulièrement chercher faire programme, voyer chercher monde qui pourrait aider nous éduquer jeunes yo. Nous avons une police qui devient faire un programme pour nous. La police l'a dit, si on dit nous, en tant que police, il y a 3 B nous pas voulons. Parce que depuis nous jouons 3 B, ça y est, il y a un problème. Nous pas voulons booze, nous pas voulons blood, et l'autre là, booze, blood, broken bones. That's the 3B. police l'a dit. Et il était un 17-year-old qui t'a challenge lui, il dit, les monsieur challenge, les pour monsieur prend bâton, monsieur prend bâton. Therefore, nous sommes là pour nous bailler bâton. Bâton pas obligé from the beginning. Talking, yes. But there is a time. But bâton has to be around the table. Nous pas dit parents al bat, of course c'est pas job nous. Mais les petits moun n'a challenge ou parler, il refuse d'écouter. Gon le, faut retirer les ceintures parce que c'est pas nous qui dit ça, la Bible dit ça. Et l'oreille de ça tout, c'est sauver ou sauver victime pour la vie future.
All right. Nous avons avancé et puis pour nous capables de mettre fin. But like we said earlier, c'est pas bâton qui a corrigé yon timon. And we want to be clear on that. Et c'est pas bâton qui a corrigé. In fact, on voit que tout le temps on a le bâton, la vie habituée avec bâton et il a toujours fait ça le développer. So c'est chercher qui approche, qui est capable de marcher ensemble avec Timon qui gagne. Now, we were on the topic of relationships and boundaries. Now, of course, we derailed a little bit. Now, there are three reactions that I want to touch base real quick. We have a passive relationship. We have an aggressive way to respond, and we also have an assertive way to respond when it comes to boundaries. Now, being passive, that's when, even though you're not okay, as long as the other person is okay, it's fine. So you become compliant, you become submissive, you become vague. This is not a good way to operate in a relationship. You cannot be passive in a relationship. Secondly, is being aggressive. Being aggressive is when you are okay, but forget about the other person. As long as I'm okay, that shows that you are selfish. That shows that you are harsh, disrespectful, and so forth. Now, the last one, that's being assertive. That's when you are okay and the other person is okay. This is a balanced way when you are in a relationship. As you're setting your boundaries, you want to make sure you are okay, you protect yourself, and the other person is okay as well. Now, as we're setting boundaries, a lot of times, the fact that you have accepted marcher for so long, sometimes it becomes very hard to set your boundaries. Et en pile fois, il y a des gens qui pensent que lorsque vous set boundaries, c'est parce qu'on pas aimer l'autre monde, c'est parce qu'on raïl, c'est parce qu'on pas stand libre. But boundaries are not about disliking people. It is about keeping toxic people at a safe distance, far away from your finances, far away from your emotions, far away from the life decision that you are making. Now, there are 4 levels in friendship. There are people where you can be close with. There are people where you just have to be friendly with. There are people that you can only be in a transactional relationship with. And there are people that you should completely avoid. Now, Starlene, what can you tell us about those 4 levels of friendship? How can you break it down to the people?
Okay, so we're talking about close, friendly, transactional, and avoid. Because we have, not everyone should have the same level of access to you, depending on the type of influence that you want to keep in your life, as we were talking about before. So somebody who's close is a close friend, someone that, you can share your I don't want to say secrets, because once you share, it's no longer a secret, but something that is dear to your heart, information that you wouldn't necessarily want the whole world to know, right? Because we all need somebody that we can talk to, right? So we all need that type of friend, one or two that you can have that level of closeness with. You know, obviously, if you're in a romantic relationship, ideally, you know, your spouse should be somebody that is, obviously they're close to you, they're your spouse, right? So they would qualify as being close, or a close friend that you have. Now, someone that you're friendly with, right, is somebody that doesn't necessarily know all of the details of your life, but you call that person a friend, right? We all have many friends, but they don't necessarily know, they're not necessarily involved in all of the intimacies of everything that happens in our lives. Now, transactional is somebody that basically know what they need to know, right? You interact with them when you need to. I mean, basically, like, example, somebody like a colleague. We have colleagues that are friends, but we also have colleagues that we only talk to about work. We only talk to about things that we need to talk to them about. And it could also be somebody that's in the church. You could be in a ministry with somebody. It doesn't mean that they're your friend. It doesn't mean that you have to be close to that person, right? Just because you're in the same department doesn't mean, you know, when you're having a meeting, you talk about what you need to talk about. But you don't talk about your intimacies. And then you have people that are just, you know, you try to have as much of a distance with them as possible. Those are people that you avoid just because they don't have that, they bring something out of you that is not very pleasant, right? Because that's the thing. Sometimes they're not necessarily your enemies, but some people, you may have like on différence de personnalité. There's also that. Some people you just really cannot get close with that person or interact with that person without there being negativity. So you try to avoid that person as much as possible. They're not your enemy. You can pray for them. You don't wish anything bad to happen to them. If they need help, you may be willing and available to help. But this is not someone that you have any type of a relationship with.
All right. Now, another question that we can ask, because we know we have friends, we have people that we talk to, we have people at work that we interact with, we have people at church, that we call brothers and sisters. How, Valnisha, do we define, or how do we choose who should be in your circle? Do we just say, you know what, I like this person, that can be my friend? Or do we have to pray? Do we have to ask God for discernment? How do we have friends?
Well, first thing, we always have to ask God for discernment, because a lot of times, même si moun la met paraît comme si au bon moun lié, but their intention for you is the complete opposite. So you always have to ask God, is this person supposed to be in my life? Should I allow this person, even when it's just business, should I do business with this person? Should I allow them to be friendly with me? Should I allow them to get close to me? Because a lot of our deepest bruises come from people we put so much trust into. Oh, I trust you so much. I love you, my best friend. You're my Christ. You're my sister in Christ. But that does not mean you both are aligned to be in each other's life. Yes, we have to make it to heaven. We will get there with a distance. Does that make sense? Like, yes, I respect you as a human. I respect you as my brother and sister in Christ. But you do not have to call me every day. We do not have to communicate to each other every day if it's not an emergency or if it's not important. We always have to ask God, is this person going to ruin what you have in store for me? Or are they going to help me to receive what you have for me? Do I belong in their life as well? Because parfois, pense c'est seul monde qui fait nous mal, mais nous fait l'autre monde mal tout. Est-ce qu'on mérite moun ça? Est-ce qu'on mérite une place moun ça? Est-ce qu'on mérite parler avec moun qui gagne pile business, qui gagne pile comme? Are you allowed? Should you be in that person's life? Do you have the characteristics to allow you to be in such a great presence? Because it works both ways, but we always ask God, Father, is this person supposed to be in my life? Or is this person just a lesson? If it is just a lesson, avoid them once you learn the lesson.
All right, so it's time to wrap up. I want to leave you with one quote. It is by Henry Cloud. He said, "You get what you tolerate." You get what you tolerate. A lot of time when we don't set those boundaries, when we don't put a circle around you, you create the problem. And this is why a lot of time people would walk all over you. People will do things to you, and you feel like, wow, why I did not deserve that. But a lot of times because you don't have those boundaries set, so that is the reason why. So there's a text that we read before in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. It says, "Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals." So I'm going to open it up just in case you guys have any other questions regarding the topic that we have discussed. So this is the moment. If you have questions, I know we have exhausted a lot of the questions already. So, Dave?
One of the boundaries, I don't know if we discussed it, I did take a nap while you guys were talking. I do apologize about that. But one of the boundaries I see we didn't talk about that we need boundaries of opposite sex. I don't know if we discussed that, but that is something I think our young people actually need an education on that. When we talk about boundaries dealing with men and women, boys and girls, we need to understand that, ladies, you have to set a boundary for when you're talking with somebody. I think our sister said you don't have not everybody should have certain access to you. And so it's early for us, and I think we can probably piggyback off this at another event. It's important for us to set boundaries early in your relationships. Yes. Because if you don't set boundaries, once the snake is in your yard, it's harder to get it out than to let it in. And so we need to be careful with that, especially dealing with those of the opposite sex.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do we have any other hands? All right. Any last comment, Starling? Any last comment?
My final advice for you all who've been listening or who are tuned in, create boundaries to save your soul. Create boundaries to save your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health. Create boundaries not because you feel entitled, but because you are valued. When you know your value, you know what you should tolerate, what you shouldn't tolerate. When you know who you are in Christ, ou pas accepter, ou pas tolérer tout bagay ou not fail. Create your boundaries because you will thank God for it and have the ownership to know that who you are and what you do for a living, God will bless you and protect you as well.
All right, thank you. Again, I will reiterate, setting boundaries is to protect yourself, not to protect the other person, but it is to protect yourself. So set boundaries to help yourself. So I don't see Melendi. Dave, I don't know if you have the closing remarks. Oh, Tika? All right. So I'll turn it over to Tika.
Hi, everyone. That sounds a little dry. Hi, everyone. Okay, so we're going to usher into Plan B. Unfortunately, we have a game night that we're doing. We're going to be doing a lot of different games because they are still doing the free time. So we're going to be playing a lot of different games. So we're inviting you to the cafeteria. Nous allons la cafeteria pendant qu'on fait free time. Nous allons parler ensemble. Nous allons jouer ensemble. We're going to have a good time. Okay? Okay? Okay.
All right. Abby gonna sing the final song, and then Blancha will come in for the final prayer.
We're going to
close Sabbath, since the sun is already set, we're going to sing Numbers 197, Reste avec nos seigneurs le jour des clés. And then après ça, the president will do a final prayer so we can close off the service. On nous mettez debout. Blanchard will do the final prayer. Reste avec nous, Seigneur, le jour décline, la nuit s'approche, nous menace tout, nous implorons ta présence divine, reste avec nous, Seigneur, reste avec nous, en toi, oui, en toi nos cœurs, en salue le Maître, en toi notre âme a trouvé son époux, à ta lumière, elle se sent renaître, reste avec nous, Seigneur, reste avec nous, lève, oui, lève un bonheur de ce monde fidèle, n'enfante rien que regret ou dégoût. Nous avons soif d'une joie éternelle. Reste avec nous, Seigneur, reste avec nous. Dans nos vies, dans nos combats, si ta main nous délaisse, Satan vainqueur nous mérite ses coups, que ta puissance amène notre faiblesse. Reste avec nous, Seigneur, reste avec. Sous ton regard, la joie est sainte et bonne. Près de ton cœur, les pleurs même sont doux. Soit que ta main nous frappe pour nous couronne. Reste avec nous, Seigneur, reste avec nous.
Adorable Père des cieux, nous te disons merci, Seigneur, de ce que vous t'es conduit par nous. Vous t'es fait, Seigneur, nous t'es réunis à Bethanie pour nous être capables de venir aux gloire que vous-même seuls vous méritez. Côté organisation, ça qui est le fait, Jacques. Vous mettez dans la communauté noire pour servir l'Église du Seigneur. Nous te disons merci de ce que vous avez fait en pile l'Église te réunie ensemble, Seigneur, pour nous être capables de gloire que vous-même seuls vous méritez. Nous demandons même gens où tu fait venir là, Seigneur. Nous demandons capable avec vous faire retourner côté vous sortir en bien aussi, Seigneur. Nous demandons au capable bénir l'organisation ça, bénir jeunes, bénir parents, bénir tout leader dans la communauté qui a supporté l'organisation ça, Seigneur. Permettez à ce que de jour en jour nous capables augmenter connaissance nous, Seigneur. C'est comme ça nous capables de servir la communauté là, Seigneur. Fais ça pour nous, Seigneur. Mais ça prend fin. Nous demandons au cours d'une semaine ça, Seigneur, capable avec nous pendant nous travail, nous à l'école, Seigneur, et nos enfants aussi, Seigneur. Nous demandons capable de protéger eux. Fait que nous sommes capables de passer une bonne semaine sous ta divine protection.